Hey, David R. Becker here with Becker Art. Today I want to talk to you about shadows. And I get a lot of questions a lot of times from my students. What shadow should I use? I don't know how to shadow this object or how to shadow this scene or this area. And so I'm going to give you a really simple, and it's very easy, shadow, a little bit of shadow tricks. And so if you can see right here, I put down um, 6 colors, the primaries and the secondaries. And what I'm going to do is show you what colors you can use to shadow those objects. And the basic thing is, the easiest way to explain this is that if the object is red, like the bag up here, if you're doing something that's red, then you would make the shadow a dark red. It's that simple. So if you look right here, this bag is red, right? And the parts that are light in the light area, those are red. But then when you go into the shadow side of the bag, it is dark red. It's that simple. If you are doing anything on white, then it would be the any color you'd like. And it's really, then there's some reflected light and I'm going to show you that you can use any color you want for the shadow color when it comes to white, or something that's very light, like a gray, a light gray. And if you look over here in this plant, here's the dark blue background, right? And when you see the shadows coming off this pot into the back, it's a dark blue. And then also the green leaves just are darker green. It's that simple, really. But sometimes people say to me, well, I've always heard in school that, if you have a warm light, you need a cool shadow. If you have a cool light, then you have a warm shadow. Don't make it that complicated on yourself. Just think of it as if it's a green, make it a dark green. And I will prove that to you how easy that is to do. So let's say a lot of times people will think they make their to make a shadow, they make it blue, right? And so then everything, no matter what is down, they just take a blue. So let's just take all these colors and let's see what happens when I just use blue as my shadow color. Now I'm just going to take it and pull it right across all these colors. I'm just going to go across here. And so this would be like a blue. Let's do it one more time, just so it's a little bit more powerful, a little bit more of a shadow color. So that's a blue going over, just taking blue, and unfortunately this is a cheap paper, watercolor paper, but it shows you that this is a blue over the blue now. Makes it a decent shadow because the blue, making it darker blue, makes it okay. A blue on a green is okay. It kind of looks so good, and even on a purple. But when you get over here to the blues on the red, that kind of makes it purple, which is also good for, not too bad for a shadow color. But yellow, it turns to green, and orange, it kind of takes it brown. So those are, it would work okay, but let's try a warm color now across it. So let's say something, they say it's use a cool color, so use warm shadows. And so I'll take like a warm color, an earth tone, and make that the shadow color. So it's going to go over everything. All right, so that's a warm value. And so when I'm going, and of course it gets lighter as I'm going over here because I'm getting less paint there. But it also, shows like on a green, it's kind of weird. They have a shadow color that's that on a warm color on a green, and but it's okay for when the warm colors are on a warm color, So that's okay. Then some people would say, well, why don't I just use black and make black, and I'll make it a darker color. So let's try that. Let's just take a black. Just gonna take a black, and these are all things people always told you in school, where they tell you so much, and I just want to keep it simple for you guys because it really is that simple. It's simpler if you just keep things simple for yourself when you're painting. So this is black, and if I put this on the shadow as a shadow color, on this, it doesn't look that bad, to use the color of black and just make it darker, because then this is a darker green, but it has a little bit of like a gray dullness to it, the shadow. So I would say the best thing, and then like I was saying, is that you use the color and just darken it. So let's say I'm using green. So if I take another green and just make a darker green over it, that becomes a pretty decent shadow. It becomes a much better shadow color for that. If I'm using purple, take purple and just add a darker purple. Not too much darker either. And then just take it over that. And you'll find that that is the best color usually to do a shadow, is the not opposite color from something, or a warm color or cool color. It's the actual color, and then you just darken it. It's that simple. And I know people say, "Well, there's reflected light." Yes, there is reflected light, and I'll explain that in a second. But first, let's just show you. It's just use the color and make it darker first and foremost is the best way to get the color for a shadow for that color. Just use the color twice, and like here's a red. Just use the red twice, and the same exact value because it's going to be a little bit more opaque when you put it on a second time. So it becomes a really good shadow color. And then when it comes to orange, I'm just going to put it again, another color of orange. It has a little bit of dirt in it. But you can see that's just orange on top of orange, and it makes for a good shadow color. And that's maybe even too dark. But now yellow is a tricky one because on yellow, you really don't see anything that much. But you almost have to do that if you're doing want to make it a clean shadow on yellow. It's probably the hardest thing to do a shadow on because it makes it look dirty, and especially if it's really bright. And so if I use the yellow twice, that's a pretty decent shadow color for yellow. But even that sometimes it's really amazing. So for yellow, a lot of times you have to look for a local color of something else that's reflecting into it, depending. And so let me just show you again. And also remember I said that with white, you can use any color. And to show you, to prove that point, look in between these colors. In between the green and the purple, look at those colors. That would work out perfectly for a shadow color. And of course, this here is lighter. It probably has to be lighter than this. So it would just be a really light color, depending on how strong the shadow is. Again, look at the bag above right here. Look at the bag, the red bag right here. And look at the red and how it's dark red. But the shadow on white can be any color. And there's actually this red in the gray. I don't know if you can see that, but there is red within the gray because that's reflective color. And so if I do this on an object, and if you, like I said, look at the green here in the plant, and there's a dark green in the shadow part. Now, since the background is blue, you would also get some of that into the plant too. So you do a little bit of blue-green into the shadow. So just remember it that way, and look at the white container. What color is the shadow? It's pretty much the colors that are around it, right? And so, like I said, with white, you can use any color. So you just use the colors that are around it and bouncing back into the thing. So you would use a dark blue, and you can also make it dark green and dark blue because that's reflecting into that white, the pot down here. So this is something, I know it sounds super complicated when you get taught by school sometimes because they make so many things about reflected light and all these colors, but make it simple on yourself and use the color like right here. See the color that it is, just make it darker. It's just so easy to pick a color for your shadows. And like these colors did work on some of them, but it doesn't look as good as a shadow as if you just use the color. And then after you put something down, let's say this color is next to this blue, what you can do is then put the red into that. I can put red into this color and it will look like it's reflected color. So I'll put a little bit of red on this edge into the blue that I already used blue in there, but you can use the reflected color and that will be also a decent color to use in there because there's red right next to it. Same thing with the blue into the purple. If you put a little bit of blue right here, it will look like it's still like a shadow because the blue is reflecting from over here. So when there's something close to your shadow that is a color engulfing it, then yes, you do that. You put that color into the shadow too. But first and foremost, just use the color that it is, the local color of the object. Use that first and just use it twice. Use it the second time. And I mean, you can use black, but it kind of dulls it down. And I wouldn't recommend it for some other colors like light colors like this because it makes it look gray and dirty. Black would make it look dirty. Which at times, depending if your scene is kind of like a lot of grays, then that's fine because that's engulfing that area too. So it's all about what's in the object and what the object is around. And there's a good examples of these pictures up here that I just found. Is that like a red bag on a white surface? It's going to be a dark red. Now, if this floor, let's say this floor was purple, then you'd have purple, a darker purple shadow, and it wouldn't be just this gray. But like I said, I could even make this a purple lavender, the shadow down here, but then I would put it up here too, because then that would be okay to make it look like there's a kind of a purpley color in there. But then I would put also red in there from the bag because that's reflected color. All right, so keep these things simple for yourself. and just make your shadow the same color that the object is, and just make it a little bit darker. And the more contrast it has, or the brighter the light, and it's really closer to the object, then it's darker shadow. And as it goes away from the light, it gets lighter, the shadow. And that's something you just test out. Take your flashlight around and look at objects that are in the sunlight, and look at the shadow color of that object. It's very simple to look and see things, and look at the color and see what colors those are. It's so really so funny, because I always used to always when I was first coming out of the school, wondering what objects colors should be, because you hear so many things. Like I said, you hear that you should use. I have to look at the sky. It's a warm sky, so I got to make a cool shadow. And that just confused the heck out of me. And so I just say, as a teacher, I make it easy for you. Just use the color of the object and make it darker. All right. So we'll see you on Thursday at my paint along on Thursday at 6:30 Central Standard Time. And for all of you new people, I do that every Thursday for free on YouTube, youtube.com/@BeckerArt, and that's where I do my free videos on painting and paint along. All right. So we'll see you Thursday. Bye bye.